Hola chicos, soy señorita Schaefer y hoy vamos a hablar de la gramática de capítulo 4a y específicamente vamos a hablar de asking questions. La información aquí está en página 184 de sus libros de texto, entonces puedes encontrarla allá si quieres. La pregunta que vamos a responder hoy es, how do I ask questions in Spanish? So this is the thing that I want you to be focusing on as you listen to this video. How are you going to answer this question? So go ahead and please write this question at the top of your notes, and then make sure that you leave a space below it where you can write your answer when we're done. The first big thing that you need to have in your notes is this list of questions. Now, it's kind of a long list, so you can go ahead and start writing it down now. And as you write, I'll talk a little bit about them. You use interrogative words to ask questions. In English, this is like who, what, where, etc. Basically, it just means question words. And we have 11 that we're going to learn today. So the first one we have here is que. Que means what? And we'll use that one a lot. The second one is como. You've already learned como. When you ask someone, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? The reason it says what here is because this is how we ask. Like if you don't hear what someone says, then you say como. That's how you're going to ask, like, what did you say? Whereas in English we would say what. But usually como means how. ¿Quién means who. ¿Quién es ella? Who is she? Con quien is very similar. You can see that same word there. But you know that con means with. So con quien means with whom. We'll have a couple like that. Donde means where. ¿Dónde está el libro? Where is the book? And we're going to come back to that in a second. But first we'll look at cuántos. Cuántos means how many. Like, ¿cuántos años tienes? How many years do you have? Is how you ask how old someone is. Notice that for cuántos, this is the only one. But you're going to need to make sure it agrees, masculine or feminine. So if you're asking ¿cuántos juegos? How many games? Because juegos is masculine and plural, ¿cuántos will be masculine and plural. However, if you were asking how many apples, ¿cuántas manzanas? Numbers 7 and 8 have that root word of donde in them. A donde, we learned last time with ir that the a means to. So a donde means to where. If you wanted to ask someone where they're going, you would use a donde. Whereas donde is more like where is something. That's something that's stationary, something that's staying there. De donde means from where. De means from. So you already know donde. ¿Cuál means which or what. So if you ask like, ¿cuál restaurante? Which restaurant is your favorite? ¿Cuál restaurante? We don't really do a good enough job with this in English, but really when you're giving choices, you should ask which. ¿Por qué means why. And cuándo means when. Please make sure you have these copied down before you continue on to the next page. We're going to talk about questions in sentences a little bit. In Spanish, when you ask a question with an interrogative word or a question word, you put the verb before the subject. And this is just going to help signify for people and let them know it's a question. So let me grab my highlighter here and we'll look at this together. ¿Qué come Elena en el restaurante? So what you're asking is, what does Elena eat in the restaurant? But because we want it to be a question, we will put Elena after come. When you answer, you would say Elena come, and then whatever she eats, Elena eats, because that would be a statement. But in this case, it's a question, so we'll do the subject, then the verb. Let's look at another one. ¿A dónde van ustedes después de las clases? To where are you guys going after classes? Once again, we have the verb first and then the subject to show it's a question. Lastly, ¿por qué va Ignacio a la playa todos los días? Why does Ignacio go to the beach every day? The subject comes after the verb. So what I want for you guys to do, please, on your notes, is just go ahead and write down subject comes after verb in questions. And then go ahead and write down one of those examples. So for example, I'm going to write, ¿Qué come Elena? What does Elena eat? Just make sure you have an example for yourself. You've already used several interrogative words in class, like ¿Cómo estás? ¿Dónde está? But what I want you to do now is notice that all interrogative words have a written accent mark. That means that they have an accent mark over them. And you can see it here in qué, in a dónde, and in por qué, along with the other 8 that we learned on the page before this. We have one more page to go through together about more simple questions and how we state them, and then we'll go back to our original question. For simple questions that can be answered by sí o no, you can indicate with your voice that you're asking a question. And we do this in English as well. So we might say, you're going to the library, instead of are you going to the library? Because it's a yes or no question, we'll just say, oh, you're going to the library? Or you're going to the library, right? So this will show us how this goes in Spanish. And I'm going to draw some lines here, so please go ahead and write these sentences down in your notes, and then you can copy my lines that show the inflection that you use for a question. So we would say, Ana va a la biblioteca, and go up at the end of this. Now, even though it's a question and the subject is first and then the verb, just because it's simple and we're using our voice. Okay, remember, usually you'll have the verb first. Another option is you can go ahead and switch them like in the others. Va Ana a la biblioteca? Va Ana a la biblioteca? You can hear how my voice goes there. And then the last one is like you make a statement and then you say right. Like we might say, she's going to the library, right? So in Spanish, they would do the same thing. Ana va a la biblioteca, ¿verdad? Right? So, going back to our original question, how do I ask questions in Spanish? Now, the first thing that you're going to need to do is memorize your question words. And we're going to learn a fun rap that goes with those. You can go ahead and look on Moodle, it's there. But first you need to memorize your question words. There's just no way around that. And I want you to also right here remember accents. And then the second thing that you're going to do is remember that the subject comes after the verb in questions. So those are the main 2 things that we need to remember as we learn to ask questions in Spanish. And I hope to hear you guys using these more in the classroom to ask for things. Please remember, as always, that if you have any questions, you should go ahead and write them down on your paper so that you can remember to ask them in class. Gracias y adiós.